Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. And tonight we have another very special guest, all the way from the New York City area. It's Brother Greatness. How you doing today, sir?
Hallelujah. I'm doing good, Brother Price. How you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for asking. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me here tonight.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Always looking forward on dropping the message on a new platform.
And thank you so much for that. So I have my first question for today is, how did you get into professional wrestling?
Yeah, honestly, I was always into violence and the martial arts as a child. To be completely honest with you, started watching it very late in the game. Very ruthless aggression kid, and when I fell in love with the sport, kind of went backwards to get my history in check from Luthez straight up, and then figuring out different things from different avenues. I fought my friends in the street like most other people did, and around 2011, 2012. Found a great school with the Maximo brothers, and I've been in this crazy world ever since. Sans a little broken skull that took me out for about 2.5 years. But besides that, I've been attacking this sport ever since.
So, as a younger kid, you didn't follow wrestling at all?
Not really, no. I got into wrestling super late. I my first wrestling memories were when the APA first debuted, but I wasn't really a fan until Rey Mysterio's debut match on SmackDown Thursday nights on UPN. So I was a very late wrestling fan. I always knew it was scripted per se. And once I started really falling in love with the sport around WrestleMania 20 time period, that's when I doubled back and found a good, strong foundation and a sport and art form that I was really falling in love with.
Sounds like a good thing. And if you had one important lesson that you learned in professional wrestling, how do you carry on that lesson into your life?
Wow, that's a great question. I'd say if wrestling's taught me nothing else, it taught me the ability to uh, to portray one thing while focusing on another. So what's happening here isn't always what's happening in the back of my head, and I feel like that's important in the environment that we live in as adults. Whether it's on the job when you're frustrated, but need to be able to put on a different face during that time period. Not in a negative way. It's just more of a realistic skill and tool to be able to act out in a certain way as needed when need be. You understand what I mean?
I do understand that, yes, sir. And my next question is, who did you initially start training with, and when was your first match?
Yeah, the Maximo brothers. So that's 2/3 of the Spanish announce team that used to be with Amazing Red and TNA at the Ludus Wrestling Academy. My first match was, hopefully I'm not getting the date wrong. I believe it was May 27th, 2021. It was a battle royal like everybody else's first match. And then my first singles match was about 2 months or so later in 2012 against a man who's now a battle rapper, Panic.
Oh, really? He's a battle rapper now?
Battle rapper now. He throws in a lot of WWE puns, and it's honestly quite entertaining.
Yeah, I would love to see that one day. And what is your main goal out of professional wrestling? Like, what is your like top level thing that you want to accomplish?
What's crazy is it's changed so much over the years. I'm starting to lose track of it myself. It used to be to just make a profit in the business, and now I typically do so. I usually make money more. I make more money than I lose year by year at this point. Then it became to become a trainer, but now I'm an assistant trainer at a school. So at this point, I think the goal is just to have as much fun as possible and try to earn as much respect as I can. I think I'm just trying to see how far I can take this because I'm further along with it than I thought I would be. I didn't think I'd be wrestling outside of New York and New Jersey. I'm wrestling in Texas and DR and West Virginia and all these other places. And it's far beyond what I was planning for. I was never one of those guys who said, I got to make it to the E, brother. I got to go to New Japan or whatever. It was always, make a profit, be a relatively big deal in my local area. And now it's becoming more and more realistic to say, hey, maybe I can make a career out of this, or maybe I could be a head trainer somewhere, run my own school, on my make substantial money only on wrestling and wrestling related things. So I don't want to call it a goal because life is bigger than the sport. Um, but I think right now that's where my mentality is. How far can I really go?
So, out of your career, what's your favorite match? Like, what's that match that stands out in your head?
Uh, there's two that are kind of having an argument right now for me. It's either my match with Christopher Cage, the second one I had with him at BWF, Bronx Wrestling Federation in 2019, December 2019. Um, Everything about it was great. The match in itself was great. People really enjoyed the build up, and although it was backed by a lot of really real stuff, just how we both honestly feel about each other. And if you ever look at my Facebook comments, you'll see him pop in here and there saying things that people are just like, "Ooh, he's obviously not like those aren't buddies,"
Yeah.
So just for the entirety of the presentation, the promos, everything, that's probably my favorite. In terms of just what happened in the ring, I'd say my favorite match was out of the Limitless Dojo back in late March against Rick Bison. Um, I'm not saying it was the best match I ever had, but it's a personal favorite for me.
Sounds like a good thing. I might have to check those matches out myself.
Yeah, so I
Um,
mean, for the second one, you go on IWTV, Limitless Dojo, March 30th show, somewhere in the middle of the card. I think I was like match number 5 or 6.
so, what's that feeling like backstage before a match? What's going through your head?
Oh man, there's not even much happening in my head anymore. It's just about what's going on. I mean, not to sound sexual, what's going on in my pants. You always got to pee right before you wrestle. We all you always got to pee right before a match. That's just the rule.
Yeah, I agree, man. I used to wrestle myself, as you know, and I always used to have to go pee before a match.
You just stand there like, I don't actually have to pee, but I gotta pee. My music's about to turn on. I gotta urinate. Need to go out there, and then the entrance starts. You're like, do I still gotta pee? And you don't even know because you know the entrance. It's the whole thing. It's all about what's happening down there. There's nothing going on in my brain. I just gotta pee.
So, as a smaller stature guy, how do
How
you,
dare?
how do you, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with bigger guys in the ring?
Yeah, man. I mean, you wrestle to your size and you wrestle to the match that you have. Everything's situational for me. Obviously, I'm not trying to suplex every bigger guy. That's probably not going to work best for me. But luckily, I was trained in the American Lucha style, so I'll fly around a little bit if need be. If I have the opportunity to do so, I'll throw blows and get out of your way. If it makes sense, I'm going to try to wrap you up in some kind of submission or a quick pin, separate, and hit you hard in the head. I don't care how big you are. If I hit you clean in the head and you ain't on your feet, I could probably get on top of you for 3 seconds and go home. So it's it's really size doesn't matter. It's just a matter of understanding what your limitations are and the limitations of your opponent.
So, you ever had an injury in your career?
Ooh, yeah, the big one.
And how'd you deal with that? Did you ever think you were going to come back?
Yeah, no, there was a chance I was gonna die, so wasn't really thinking about wrestling. I was worried about brain damage. I was worried about whether or not I was gonna die. I was worried about how my family would take it because that was a whole thing. Um, yeah, man, it was so much bigger than wrestling for me. But once we got past the major issues, the next thing was like, hey, you're never doing this again. And after a couple of years, I went in to be a manager. I talked to the doctor, and they're like, no, you can do this. Just don't hurt yourself again. I'm like, oh wow, great. Right back at it. I was like, sure, let's do it.
So, how'd you end up hurting yourself, or did somebody else hurt you?
And somebody else hurt me. They came down with an elbow. I thought a frog splash was coming. The guy didn't really know how to do the move. Um, so my hands are down protecting myself from the frog splash, and he comes down here, elbow straight here. So the fractures come around here, big cut. They pull it open. They have to put the metal in there, the mesh, the plate, sew it back up. It's a whole hoopla. So no fun.
So, you never thought you were going to come back from that injury?
Never thought it'd happen again.
And does it bother you today?
Not really. No, every once in a while I'll get a headache, and if you touch it, you can feel like where the initial point of impact happened. My favorite hairstyle is the baldy. I like the Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan baldy, and I can't really do that anymore because then you see the big, abscondy scar. Actually, when we were around each other, I think I had the baldy or like a fade or something. So you guys always saw it, but I can't really rock that the way I used to. So those are the bigger effects at this point. It doesn't come up too much. Every once in a while, you wake up, you're like, whoa, what's happening? And then it usually passes.
Well, I'm glad you came back from that injury because I truly enjoy your work. And for people that don't know your work or your gimmick, can you explain a little bit who Brother Greatness is?
Yeah, in short, Brother Greatness is the wrestling Christian. Just like you have Christian rappers or, any form of entertainment that's focused on Christ. That's my duty to bring Christ into the world of professional wrestling. I don't see it as me coming in and being holier than thou and shaking the finger or judging anyone in any crazy fashion. My job is really really simple. To essentially be myself. I come out, I praise God, and I wrestle. And when I'm, being the heel or what have you, I might be a little bit more judgy. I might look at you a little differently, just kind of like an angry auntie at the beginning of the church service who heard you talking in the back. That's like, what are you doing, heathen? Um, so that's the general idea. Of course, CJ, the version of me that you got to experience was the Omega Black version, where it was a little bit more focused in that group. So you got a different version of that where it was all about education and the bravado and money. But for me primarily, that's what I'm about, the wrestling Christian and everything that comes with that.
So I'm assuming you played a heel and a face in your career. Which is
Yep.
your favorite to do and why?
Ooh, face, absolutely. I think the face version of me is the truest version of me. Just you've seen me backstage. Um, I'm very as you I'm very composed right now. It's been a long day. But as you know, typically I'm screaming to the top of my lungs. I'm running around in a circle. I'm dancing. I'm picking people up and sprinting around and throwing knee pads at people and cracking jokes and being absolutely ridiculous. And the face version of Brother Greatness gets the opportunity to do all of that. I come out, the loud music, the lights, the colors, the blue and the yellow. I'm shaking around, I'm dancing, I'm wilding out, I'm making friends with people in the crowd, like legitimately, like people looking for me after, like, hey man, you gonna go hang out with us? I'm like, I'm going home. I live 300 miles away. Um, but like, and that's the version that I definitely like the most because it feels truest to myself and have the most fun doing it. Being heel is always a good time though, because I get to drop people on their heads way more often.
I love playing heel. As you know, I was a heel in MAW, and that was my favorite thing is getting booed out of the building.
It's a shame that we did heel on heel. Face on heel would have been such a good time for us.
I would have,
We
but
would, we would have a good
it
time.
is what it is, man.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the hardest part of being a pro wrestler?
Not being able to accept jobs that require you to work on the weekend. I know, kind of random. For me, that's the worst part. I've had cool jobs that I've seen. I'm like, oh, this would be great for me. I'm like, oh, I have to come in on Saturdays. Can't do it. Gotcha. That's honestly the hardest part for me. Most people will say like the training or the diet or the price of gear or all this other stuff. Nah, man. I just want to be able to work a regular job on a Saturday if I feel like it. Can't can't do it. Got a show in Rhode Island or Maine or all of New England apparently. You know.
So when you're at a show, is your main goal to outshine everybody?
No, no, definitely not. I wrestle for the show. I wrestle for the card, and I wrestle for the match. I'm big on understanding the assignment. What does the booker or promoter want from me? How do they want it done? And I'll perform that to the best of my ability. If someone doesn't know what they want, which happens often, I will give you what I think makes sense. So it's not always my goal to be the best in the building every night. It's my goal to be the best, to do the assignment that is meant for me to the best of my ability. You
Sounds
know, and I,
really
and I feel
so.
like if more people thought like that, you'd have better overall shows instead of everyone just trying to have the Wrestlemania Classic. You know?
I agree. I agree. There's a lot of wrestlers out there that want to have a 5-star classic and doesn't worry about the rest of the card. You know, I feel like the show overall should be a good show. You know,
Yeah.
not just a match.
Someone should be losing in a couple seconds. There should be the tag team match that's a little hokey. There should be the hardcore guy. There should be the guy whose job is to do the Broadway tonight. Just understand where you are and what your positioning is. And I just wish more wrestlers, honestly, more promoters. A lot of promoters don't understand that. Just that they really that clicked in their head and they thought in that way when they're booking people, setting up shows, what have you.
So how do you deal with backstage politics?
I used to deal with it very well. I feel like I feel like I've lost my touch. Um, Typically, people like me. They just get along with me very easily. So backstage, and I leave shows immediately, as you know. I don't sit around. I don't wait around. I don't eat food with nobody. I'm in and I'm out. I don't play. Like I'm never gonna be rude, but bop bop bop, peace. We got another town to hit. And even if we don't, I want to go home. You know what I mean? So backstage politics has never really been a big issue for me. Unless we're talking money, I'm always going to argue about money. But outside of that, like I'm usually pretty relaxed. Um, Lately, the issue has been that since I get along with everyone, when other people don't get along and I get caught in the middle, it's just like, oh, so and so's a terrible person. I'm just like, okay, like, and everybody just kind of gets mad at me. It's like, why don't you think everyone's horrible? And I'm just like, the secret is I think everyone's horrible. I'm just nice to everyone. Um, and yeah, so now I'm not as good with the backstage politics. I think I've kind of lost my willingness to deal with nonsense. So now I either separate myself from an equation or tell everyone exactly what's on my mind extremely quickly. And since I'm someone who doesn't care about my position on the card, championships, anything, all I care about is what's my assignment and performing that assignment well. Um, it's really hard for the politics side to affect me because what are you going to do to a guy who thinks like me? What are you going to? The only thing you can do is take me off your card. But with the amount of shows that are out there, like, what is that really going to do? There's really no. I don't want to make myself sound untouchable, but what are you going to do to me that's going to get me too hot and bothered outside of not paying me when I already showed up for your show? Outside of that, what's going to happen? So politics, schmolitics, care less. I go backstage. I'm a complete fool. I work my match. I go home. There's nothing else to say.
So, what is the most regretful thing that happened in your career, and how did you learn from that regret?
Like something that I regret doing personally.
Yes.
Um, that's a good question. This is so random, and it's actually an MAW story. So, I've always been very big on sticking with the bookings that like I accept. Right? If I tell you I'm coming, I'm coming. Um, so I don't feel that way anymore. In terms of like if something bigger comes, you should probably take it. If there's a really big difference, just have open realms of communications. Like promoters can rebook shows. It's annoying, it's painful, but it's true. They can. Um, so there was a time that I had an opportunity to do a Beyond Wrestling tryout. Um, and I found out about it super late because everyone found out about it super late. I think they decided to do it super late, but I already had an MAW booking, and I was already like, we were already doing this. I don't know who else. I was probably working you because we worked each other 1,000 times, but like I had an MAW booking, I didn't want to drop it, and I was there. Like I'd be there 2 shows, be gone for 2 shows, be there for a show, miss one. So it was already all over the place. So I didn't want to screw you guys' storyline stuff up. So I was like, man, I gotta go do this. That tryout turned out to be, I won't use names, but a buddy of mine got signed with MLW because of that tryout.
Nice.
And two other friends, including the other one, so 3 friends in total, got to work Beyond because of that tryout. And they all called me afterward and said, bro, this time all they wanted was someone who has a character that could wrestle decently. All 3 of them hit me up separately and said, honestly, if you were there, you would have taken over the tryout because what they were looking for, the assignment they were looking to fulfill, is pretty much what you do. And I was just like, wow, I really didn't make it there for a $25 booking. I was like, that's crazy. So, like, there's a lot of answers I could give, but I think that's the one thing that keeps bothering me. It's like, wow, if there was ever a time for me to be selfish, it was that day. Because where could I be right now? I probably would have gotten a Beyond opportunity. Not to say I'd be booked, like be signed there, but I probably would have gotten an opportunity to work for them at least once. And that's a big deal.
Maybe that'll happen again, man. You never know.
Ooh, that was like 3 years ago. So let's see what happens. Who knows? They're on my list. It's them, Limitless, and Northeast Wrestling. Those are the big 3 for me right now. I got one of them. I'm trying to get another one soon, and I'm trying to get NEW on Saturday. So let's see what happens with Beyond. Who knows? Maybe one day.
So, how do you deal with the traveling and all the little small injuries like bumps and bruises? Your back hurts, your neck hurts. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. I'm always beat up. I'm beat up right now. My neck is killing me. Um, I try to stretch a lot. I usually fail at that, but just a lot of stretching. Really just trying to maintain my body in general because if I'm stretching all the time, the injuries don't come as hard and fast. When I get hurt, which is often, I lean into the injury all the time. So my first thing is, ooh, my hips locked up, and I immediately try to get the range of motion even when it hurts. So, I just kind of take the L for a lot of the pain. For the traveling, it really depends. Like, what I'm currently driving the least vehicle, so these far out drives doing 400 miles to West Virginia and back are just no bueno. So I just kind of weigh my pros and cons. Sometimes I'll take that drive. Sometimes I'll make sure I get somebody else booked or find someone else who's booked there, and I'll ride with them and figure it out like that. And I try to balance everything in that regard. Sometimes it works out for me. Like I was supposed to go to Connecticut last month, and the car I was in broke down, and we had to run back into it. Was a whole thing and a half, and I got to the show at bell time, and I was supposed to be match number one, and it was just a whole hokey doke mess. So I wish I drove myself. But there's other times I drove all the way to Maine, and it's like, wow, it would have been really nice to not put almost 1,000 miles on my car. So
Wow.
you
Wow.
know
It's crazy,
it,
man.
it's just about balancing in the hot mess and doing all that stuff. And the drives are always long, but if you have someone decent in the car with you, the 8 hours start feeling more like three.
Yeah, I agree, man. I used to travel with Dion Douglas all the time, and he made the time go by quickly, and it was a great time. I don't miss the wrestling because my body's really messed up right now, so I'm done with wrestling. And thanks to you, yeah, you retired me, man.
My pleasure.
So,
Got the wheelchair and the trash bag and everything.
so what can we expect out of Brother Greatness in the next 5 years?
5 years. Ooh, that's a big range. A lot more wrestling. Um, the consistent evolution of me as both a man and as a character. Um, expect me to wrestle a lot more places, especially a lot more Texas. Texas was phenomenal. I did that recently, so a lot more Texas. Um, kind of, it's weird to say, but a lot of the same. I'm just gonna keep pushing and driving, and I think the one thing that might be a little different is I expect a lot of wrestlers to come out that are good, who are getting opportunities, who are getting signed or getting opportunities to be signed at different places, coming out and saying, "Oh, where were you trained?" And them saying a random school nobody heard of, saying a bunch of names you never heard of, and then someone goes, "And Brother Greatness, was always my emotional rock." Because I'm involved in a lot of younger people's journeys. I don't know if I'll ever get to sign a contract or be famous in any way or do any of that stuff that people dream about that I never did. But I sincerely believe that the people I'm training and helping right now, a lot of them are going to have that opportunity. So expect to hear a lot about Bradley, the trainer, as opposed to Brother Greatness, the wrestler.
And do you enjoy wrestling or training more than wrestling or wrestling more than training?
Training. I prefer training people more than I've ever loved anything in the ring ever.
Why is that?
I like helping people. I like being involved. I like being involved in the process of helping people get better. I am a mean human being. At core, I like telling people when they suck. I like telling people when they mess up, and I like being there when they figure it out. I will be there to wipe your tears. I'll also be there to cause the tears. I'm down for the entirety of the process, and I get more excited about other people's success than I ever do about my own.
Sounds good, man. And where can we find that wrestling school where you train at?
So right now I'm the one of the two assistant trainers at T to T Technique to Training Wrestling Academy in Brooklyn, New York. That is, I want to say, 65 Shoal Street. It's run by Thomas Frazier, who's the owner and promoter at Industrial World Wrestling. They're actually coming out with their first IWTV presentation, which I will be featured in. Praise the Lord. That's going to be shown on July 20th. I think that's a Wednesday. So yeah, that's you'll get to see the inside of the school and everything within the confines of that presentation.
And what's one thing that you're most proud of as a professional wrestler?
Ooh, yeah, good questions. Um, and I'm most proud of. Wow, that's a hard one. Um, I guess I'd have to say opening the school. I guess would really is really up there for me. I'm really proud of being part of that process. financially, intellectually, and everything else. I really am proud of that. And I guess if it's more just like a brother greatness thing, I'm really proud of the work I did in the Bronx Wrestling Federation. I really helped that company be something different and special. And I feel like in those last couple months, the best version of me as a worker came to show its face. And I don't think that version of me is ever going to exist again. That pre-COVID brother greatness, I don't think is ever going to exist again. I've made a lot of changes. A lot of them were based on things going on with me internally. So I don't think that version of brother greatness will ever exist again. Um, but I'm really proud of that because that was my vision of who I wanted to be. And I'm really glad I had an opportunity to do that, even if it was only for a short period of time.
So you mentioned that you're a mean human being and you like telling people that they suck and stuff like that. How do you deal with constructive criticism when people tell you suck or you messed up?
Yeah, it depends on where it comes from. So I have some guys and gals who literally go out their way to hit me up and tell me when I suck. Um, Probably think about three of them off the top of my head. Don't really want to name names, but you know, I feel as though I'm pretty good at taking constructive criticism. I think the problem with me when I'm taking it is if I'm not in the mood to hear it, sometimes I need a day or two. So like somebody will hit me with something and I'll be like, yeah, whatever. And I'll get back to someone in a couple of days and be like, all right, cool. Can we talk about this, please? I'm in a place now that I can take it. And the other thing with me is that sometimes I just disagree. Like even if what you're saying makes sense, I'm just hard headed and need to figure it out myself. Not to say I'm not gonna take it or argue with you. But sometimes I'm just a little stubborn about certain things, and sometimes it served me extremely well. Sometimes I regret it later. So advice. What's the quote? Advice is like a form of nostalgia. It's like someone fishing the trash out of the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and selling it for more than it's worth. Advice is based on people's experiences and showing the best part of it. So sometimes it's worth a lot, and sometimes it's not. So it's hard to
So,
discern.
last question before I let you go, Mr. Brother Greatness.
Yes, sir.
How or what do you say to any person that wants to get into the professional wrestling business? What's one or two pieces of advice that you give them?
Figure out why. Like, why are you doing this? Have some concept. It doesn't even have to make sense. Just have a concept of why you want to do this, please. Like, why? Because the why matters. And two, please get in some level of physical shape. Please, please be in some kind of shape. Be an athlete of some sort. Those are my big two. Um, if I could have a bonus one, find a good school. Just find a school that works for you. There's a lot of great schools, but not every school works for everybody. Find a school that works for you.
So, where can fans find Brother Greatness?
Ooh, the social media stuff. Love it. Brother Greatness is the Facebook page. Brother Greatness 2012 on both Twitter and Instagram. You could type in Brother Greatness Versus, and all the Brother Greatness stuff on YouTube will pop up. There's a page there. Um, and then finally, if all of that is just too much to recall, even though it's just Brother Greatness, Brother Greatness, Brother Greatness, you can shoot me an email at brothergreatness@gmail.com. Pretty good about responding to that because I handle my bookings through that very often. So those are the big ones. And of course, Brother Greatness via Pro Wrestling Tees. So prowrestlingtees.com/Brother Greatness. We have a lot of great shirt designs out there for you. All of them $19.99.
Sounds like a freaking great deal, Mr. Brother Greatness. I just have one announcement to make to all of our listeners. If we reach 400 likes by August 15th, I personally am giving away a $50 gift card to anywhere of your choice. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook, like our page, 5 Star Revolution Podcast. Mr. Brother Greatness, thank you so much for your time, and listening to your stories was an awesome experience. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, CJ. You have a good one.
You too, man. Thanks.
Stay blessed.